Hi everyone, it's Julie back with another book recommendation video, and I'm calling this one Pack Your Bags, because what these books have in common is that they all take place in different lands with different cultures, things that we're not normally used to experiencing in the United States. I find that books like that tend to be some of my favorites. They stay with me a really long time. I don't know if it's because you have to immerse yourself in that culture. It's so different from what you are used to experiencing on a day-to-day basis. But for whatever reason, these tend to be some of my favorite books that take place in other countries. I don't know what that says, but the first book is called Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. This came out a few years ago in 2017. When it came out, lots of accolades and best book of the year lists and things like that. It takes place in Nigeria, and it's about a young couple who they meet at university and they fall in love and they get married and they experience some fertility issues. And the husband's family, their solution to the situation is to bring in a second wife. And, that's shocking to us. We're not used to that here, but it's part of the culture there. And as shocking as that was, it's not even the most shocking thing. It's not even close to being the most shocking thing that happens in this book. The culture, I feel like, was almost like a character in this book. It played a big part in everything that happened in the story. It's a little book, not very large, but very powerful, very sad. I do feel sometimes like I need to have like a sadness rating, and the books that I like generally be through the roof on the sadness rating. But I don't know. I don't know what it says about me, but I like books that make me feel things, and sadness. I don't know if I find it more realistic when there's sadness in there, but it is what it is, I guess. The next book I'm recommending is called 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. Let me hold that up. I read a lot, and a lot of times people will ask me, what's your favorite book? Do you have a favorite book of all time? And my answer is no, but this book is generally up there. I would say it's probably in the top 3. This book takes place in Afghanistan, and Hosseini wrote The Kite Runner. It's probably his most well-known book, and which is also a great book. But this one just really, I loved it so much, and I'm probably due for a reread. I read it when it first came out in probably 2007 or 2008 or something like that, and it's probably due for a reread. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it, and if you have, I recommend a reread. It's about 2 women, Layla and Mariam, and how their lives intersect. I don't want to give too much away. Multiple wives is acceptable in this culture as well, and so so I don't want to give too much away, but it's a great book, excellent writing, beautiful writing, fascinating story, also sad, but hopeful as well. Okay. The next book is called The Space Between Us by Thrity Umrigar. And this book came out about 10 years ago. It takes place in modern day India. And it's told from the points of view of 2 women, Sarah, who is an upper middle class woman, and Bhima, who is 65, and she's her maid basically, and she's her house worker, and she's illiterate and she's poor. And a quote from the book says, though separated by their stations in life, the 2 women share bonds of womanhood that prove far stronger than the divisions of class or culture. Another heartbreaker. One thing I will say about this book is a lot of times when you read books about people in different classes, I feel like the rich people or the rich person or the rich character tends to come off poorly, either selfish or immoral or things like that. And this book really, that was their station in life. One was rich and one was poor, but there was no judgment on these. There was no... It was just a tale of their relationship, and a beautiful tale at that. So The Space Between Us. Oh, and warning, there are multiple books with this title. The Space Between Us. One of them is actually about space. So, if you're like me, steer clear of that one. And there's another novel about the space called The Space Between Us. And that may be great too, but this is the one I'm recommending. Okay. Okay, the next book takes place in Australia, and it is called The Dry by Jane Harper. And it's called The Dry because it takes place in Australia during a drought. And the dry refers to the land, the climate, the temperature. It's almost like the climate is a character in this book as well. Really well developed characters. And it takes place in modern day Australia, I should say. And it's basically a story about a man named Aaron, who is in the Australian equivalent of the FBI. And he's called on to investigate a murder that takes place in a town, his hometown. So the story goes back and forth between present day and 18 years prior. It's one of those where you learn information from the past and how it relates to what's happening in the present. Definitely keeps you guessing. Very well written. Jane Harper has written several books, 3 or 4. I've read them all, and they're all great. So just definitely recommend her. And finally, I'm going to recommend a book. I don't know if you can call it a recommendation because I have not read it yet, but a dear friend of mine who reads as much as, or if not more than I do, and we have the same taste in books. We're talking recently, and she told me that the best book she ever read was this book. And it's called The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafon. And I had never heard of it, and I promptly bought it. And I'm planning on reading it soon, so you may want to join me. This one takes place in Spain at the end of World War II. I'm just going to read the back of the book. Barcelona, 1945, a city slowly heals from its war wounds, and Daniel, a book dealer's son, mourns the loss of his mother, finds solace in a mysterious book entitled The Shadow of the Wind. When he sets out to find the author's other works, he makes a shocking discovery. Someone has been systematically destroying every copy of every book Carax has ever written. In fact, Daniel may have the last of Carax's books in existence. Soon, Daniel's seemingly innocent quest opens a door into one of Barcelona's darkest secrets, an epic story of murder, madness, and doomed love. So, you had me at madness, for sure. So all of the books that I've mentioned, as always in these videos, are available on Libby, either as a book that you can download to one of your devices or an audio book. And that's all I have for today. I hope you're all staying sane and getting a lot of reading done during this time of quarantine. And that's all I have for today. I'll see you next time. Bye.